So we can officially start. So I welcome you to the 5th meeting of VICA, the online sessions. I welcome you on behalf of CCIVS, and as usual, we thank the European Youth Foundation and Erasmus Plus for supporting this project. Together with you, there is me, Mauro, and Elisabetta, and also Julia. This time she's supporting us from Romania. So thank you, Julia, for your support. And as usual, now we will start with an energizer since that we really need it. And so I leave the floor to Elisabetta as usual to start with this short energizer.
Thank you, Mauro. Okay, so also for today we have one energizer. Is really simple and it's really interesting. So for these purposes, okay, we all have cameras on. So I will ask you first to switch off your cameras, and then I'll ask some questions. Mauro and me will join as well. So I will ask yes, no questions. So answers are yes and no. If your answer is yes, you should switch on camera. Okay, I'll switch off mine as well. Okay, so we can start. Did you ever have a turtle as a pet? Whoa, hi Martina, Claudia as well. Wow, nice. Okay, cool. Let's switch to another one. Okay, have you ever dreamed of being in a high school again? Okay, 3 people, only 3. Wow, Martina, Paul, Vincent, you're really lucky. Actually, at least for me, these dreams are not so pleasant. Okay, let's do another one. Have you already swam in a beach this year? Doesn't matter if it's sea or river or lake. Only Mauro, of course. Okay, nice. So do you write with your left hand? Okay, Mauro again. Do you have your name ending with consonant?
The question is, if your name ends with a consonant, you should switch on your camera.
And consonants are A, E.
No, these are vowels.
No, the opposite. Okay. Sorry. And Vincent as well. Okay. Is your shoes size even? Like if it's okay. Vincent, Paul. Okay. Let's do a few more questions. Have you ever eaten an insect? Wow, Paul. Wow, nice, Mauro. I've never tried it. If you count a worm in a cherry, then yes, but otherwise like fried or something like this, no.
Snails.
But snails are not insects.
They are.
Snails?
Yes.
No, I'm not sure. We'll have to check this. No, snails are not insects. They are these.
Okay, then I switch off.
Okay.
Insect has 6 legs. A spider is not an insect.
Yes, they're also, I don't know the word in English for this group.
Okay, I trust you, Paul. I trust your knowledge and wisdom.
Okay. Have you ever experienced minus 20 degrees or below? Okay, yes, people from the north, of course. Well, north, not real north. And let's do the last one. Have you ever slept in tent? Yes, okay, so volunteers, of course. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Mauro, for showing this energizer. To me, this was Mauro's idea. I don't want to take so thank you for this one. And thank you everyone for joining the energizer.
Okay, now that we are energized, we can start with the official presentation of the program. As said, we expected more participants, so we will restructure a little bit the method, but we will keep the sessions. There are many small sections that we are going to conduct and to propose today. We will start with the feedback on the last homework. If you remember, last time we didn't have time, and we proposed 4 scenarios related to some emotional involvement in volunteering. And we checked the I learned the section, and we received actually some comments for you. So we would like to read this comment together with you for just 5-10 minutes. Then there will be the presentation of the Regional Youth Cooperation Office made by Elisabetta, which is a center, regional office in the Balkans, which is quite important for peace and volunteering. Then we will start the work on the toolkit, and we will proceed step by step. First, we will reflect on the purposes of toolkits in general, and then we will see what we already have on the same topic in IVS. So in the topic of volunteering in conflict areas, because branches, members, networks already have produced something. So we will see what we already have, and we will have a look also at our toolkit to be updated. I remind you that it is quite old. It was published in 2008 and needs some restyling and restructuring. And then we will keep on talking about the toolkit. This time we will go a little bit deeper, talking about aims and tasks. So we will see with more details what we want to achieve with this updating process and what are the tasks. We will see together the different chapters of the current toolkit, and we will see the parts that need to be reviewed and changed and modified, including also the inputs that we received in the previous VICA meetings. Then there will be some group work. Of course, this is the part that we need to restructure a bit, because the size of this group so far is quite small. So maybe we can work in plenary, or we can create 2 small groups. And we can start collecting some ideas on how we can change or modify the part of the toolkit. And we will conclude with the plan of action for the next month, because we need to finalize the output by a specific deadline. Of course, this meeting is recorded. It is very important because we will invite also the participants who didn't join, which are many, to watch it again, and also to provide their contributions, because you are very brave because you were here, and you deserve not to be left alone in the task of updating the process, okay? And then we will conclude with a brainstorming of some follow-up ideas that you might have, because we have some remaining funds, and we would like to ask you some ideas on how we could use these contributions, this financial contribution, also maybe at local level or for other further online events. So if we have time, we would like to collect your feedback about this point. Okay, so this is the program. Are there any questions or some announcements? Somebody who needs to leave earlier?
Yeah, I think I should leave at 3:30, something like that. If it's not a problem, not. I think.
No. If you need, it's okay for us.
Yeah, I think.
No problem for this. Okay, then we can start, as said, with homework. So actually we received homework from Milena, but Milena, unfortunately, she's not here. And then we received also an input, a comment from Paul. And it seems, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. You said that you wanted to comment actually on the 4th scenarios. Is there a specific scenario that impressed you and that you would like to comment?
No, I'm sorry. I said all four, not just number 4. One, I did an answer for 1, 2, 3, and 4 because I very much enjoyed that exercise.
Okay.
I found them challenging, but the challenges are all very different. And that's what made it a good, a really good exercise, a good challenge. So I have given some kind of answer to every one of them. My longest one was to number 3, but the others are quite long as well.
Okay, yeah. Would you like to maybe to comment those on number 3 and also to present maybe the scenario and to share with us your ideas for the scenario?
Yeah, about number 3, it's really quite difficult. The scenario as presented gave a little bit of a puzzle. This person has given some workshops on gender-based violence, I think to a group of, no, it says participants, so not necessarily only women, but one suspects that might be so. And there has been a problem that one of the women at a particular workshop has complained to her management that the whole workshop, I think, not just one thing, was not helpful, and that it led her into a very difficult situation with her partner. But at the same time, the presenter who has this problem, she has had warm praise and thanks from other participants of that same kind of workshop. Now, what wasn't clear was the problem that this woman had who was complaining is obviously known. So I think that what has happened is she has telephoned management. Management has informed the person who takes the workshops about the complaint, but has not, if you like, asked her about it or looked at it with her and tried to see what went wrong in that situation. So I think she's in the situation where she expects to be called to a management meeting to answer for herself and to maybe find out a bit more of what was wrong and to discuss it. So she's hoping it's not a disciplinary occasion. So what I said she would feel, how I said she would feel confused, conflicted, defensive, but at the same time, she would have some self-doubt or even guilt. So I will be very mixed up if that happened to me, I think. So what do you need to do in that situation? Well, you need to think carefully about what actually happened at that workshop. Can you remember anything that indicated that the participant was struggling to understand the message you were trying to put across? I might, if I had to prepare for a difficult meeting with management, try to get copies of the testimonials of the good things that other participants had said about those workshops. But thinking about what we're trying to do with a workshop on gender-based violence, if it's only limited to one partner, yes, it can be useful. And what I wrote was, do I understand the limitations of women-only gender-based violence workshops? And do I sufficiently convey and explain those limitations to the participants? Now, the workshops can be useful. They can inform women of their rights and responsibilities. They can tell them about help that is available to them in that situation, tell them that they're not alone, and do everything to increase their dignity and their confidence in what can be very difficult situations. But at the same time, one has to admit that a one-sided workshops only function, I said, to provide amelioration, in other words, to make things a bit better, rather than prevention of gender-based violence. And I really go on to say, if you want to prevent gender-based violence, you have to work with both sides of a partnership. That's difficult. You may not immediately work with them together. You might start off with working with them individually and then bring them together and try to get them to understand that a loving relationship is something which means a commitment of tenderness for one another. And how can that commitment of loving tenderness be maintained so that neither of you feel it's in any danger? But that at the same time, it's possible within the relationship to express strong opinions, strong emotions, but never doubting that the love is always there. And this means practicing skills in communication with your partner, in fact, so you can get to achieve a mutual understanding which doesn't rely on physical or psychological violence. Now, all that is, I think, should be explained to or admitted, if you like, to my management. And I would say, look, I can see that there are limitations. I would actually like to apologize to the person who's complained. I'd like to meet her, perhaps with someone else present, and say, yes, what I was doing, perhaps I didn't explain well enough. There are limitations, and really to address this huge problem, it has to be done with both partners. That's all I would say. But then, does the organization and management, are they ready to take on these special workshops that will cover the full partnership? I might say I'm willing to go for training so that I could do that. Or do you already have the resources to carry out that kind of training? Okay, that was the longest answer I gave.
So thank you, Paul. You just expressed your point in an excellent way. It was very clear. You just explained many dimensions. And also I appreciate very much also your description of the emotional dimension of the person here, the volunteer, that feel this person can feel mixed up and very uncomfortable. So actually thinking about my experience as a young volunteer, I also experienced some situations that were very similar to this scenario. I thought I was doing fine, but then I received some negative feedback, and this is something that really can create discomfort. So it is something relevant, and it is very important also to get some advice from somebody more experienced in this case. Also because in this case, the topic is very sensitive and it requires, I think, experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. Right now we don't have so much time to address and to see other homework, but this one from Paul was very interesting. And now we can go on with the next topic, which is also something that we skipped in the last meeting. And so we would like to give the opportunity to Elisabetta to share a few words about the Regional Youth Cooperation Office. So please, Elisabetta.
Thank you, Mauro. Okay, so as Mauro said, this is something that we skipped last time, but we thought it was important to share with you, since last time you got this input from Zainab about these conflicts mainly in the River Nile. So this time I will present you some different approach to the conflict resolution, and it is mainly, so it is a mechanism, an intergovernmental, let's say, mechanism that is established in Balkans. So I'll share my screen now, just a second. Okay. Okay, so this was this session about constructive engagement with local communities and stakeholders. And here I will share one example of good practice. So as I previously said, and Mauro also mentioned, it is a mechanism of regional youth cooperation office, RICO, or as it is familiar and it is known in Balkans, it's RICO. We call it RICO as well. So this is an institutional mechanism founded in Western Balkans by 6 participants, and it's called WB6. And countries that are engaged are Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Serbia. And the aim of this mechanism is to promote the spirit of reconciliation and cooperation between mainly youth in the region, and through the youth exchange programs and volunteering and different kind of peace projects. As I said, this has some kind of intergovernmental approach, and it's, let's say, put on a policy level. So this is a diplomatic initiative, and the aim of this initiative is to boost regional cooperation among Western Balkans countries and to foster their European integration, because although the 6 Western Balkan countries are on their way to join the European Union, but we're going really slow. So we need these different kind of mechanisms on different level. So why is this important, and why RICO was established? So here you will see some captions from the news, from different kind of newspapers, and I use the relevant, let's say, relevant media. So it's Deutsche Welle, it's New York Times. I forgot which one, but since I'm a journalist by my education, I was able to recognize, I know what are the relevant media. So you can see, I will not read them loud, but you can all read on the screen what are the captions from the newspapers. And there are numerous, and I'm sure if you just type in your Google like Balkans or Serbia or Croatia or conflict as a keywords, or conflict in Balkans, you will find for sure these kind of captions everywhere. And also I think if you type only Balkans, that the first things to appear would be something with the conflicts. So since many years ago, this part of the Europe is really in a conflict situation. I don't know how familiar you are with the history of this part of the Europe, but we used to be one big country, Yugoslavia, all the 6 countries except Albania. And then it split in a bloody war during the 90s. We separated, so Slovenia left first, then Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, and it was actually the big war between Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia. And maybe you've heard about some terrible things that happened, like this genocide in Srebrenica, and many other war crimes happen at this part of the world. And it happens also that, for example, since this Yugoslavian country was a communist country, so religion was not something that was important. And then it just happened one day that religion became important again. So the people who lived like peacefully and who were neighbors day before, they became enemies next day. So there were conflicts numerous between Catholics and Orthodox Christians, and also between Muslim people, and so on and so forth. So what to do about this? This is one of the, let's say, biggest ongoing RICO's projects, and it's root Western Balkan 6. So it's Regional Youth Volunteering Exchange Program. which aims to promote youth mobility, volunteering, and peace building in regions through these different regional cooperation programs. And with this program, the volunteers will support local initiatives. And in this way, you will have people engaged with the local stakeholders working together on a different kind of tasks. And this is something that is through the history shows to be the best way to bring the peace and reconciliation. So more about RICO. Well, this is in the figures, what they have done so far. So you can see again, I will not read it loud. I hope that maybe Zorana would be on this meeting, on this session, because she's the one that is involved in this project directly on the side of, I think, Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I think that she could share something useful, but she is not with us today. So maybe in the future. So you see what are the figures now, and these figures I think are with until last year. So the numbers from this current project are not involved in these figures. And so for the end, this something like this kind of mechanisms are important in the world when it comes to conflict resolution. And so maybe this can be some formula for peace. So it's persistence, engagement, assertiveness, cooperation, and energy. And if you want to read more about this mechanism, you can find it on the internet, of course, and read more. And I'll be, of course, open for any questions you want to ask about this. So I wanted just to share this because it's the most fresh and most recent example of these kind of mechanisms for bringing peace. And so far it show good results. So let's see how it will continue to work in the future. Okay, thank you everyone for your attention. If you have some questions, you can ask now. Just briefly, we want to keep it short since we don't have a lot of time.
Okay, thank you, Elisabetta. Yes, actually, I have a question just for you. If you have ever been involved in one of the projects of RICO, also from the side of your organization, if you can tell more about the format, if they are doing training, work camps, what kind of activity they do.
Well, I was not personally engaged, but the young researchers were working together with the RICO, the project, and this year it will include a lot of youth exchanges and volunteer programs. In the first place, work camps. So, but it's still in the, let's say, the call is about to be launched for this, and we'll have short-term and mid-term volunteering programs. So for the short term, there will be work camps, and for the, let's say, mid-term volunteer programs, there will be some exchanges from 3 weeks until 2 months, I think, up to 2 months. For people from Albania to come to Serbia for 2 months, people from Bosnia to come to Croatia, and so on.
Okay, and just another short question, because actually I already know the answer, but maybe it's better that you share also with our other friends. If I want, for example, if I'm an organization from Italy and I want to take part in a RICO project, or I want to get a RICO grant, can I apply?
Yeah, well,
is it just a regional?
It is just a regional. It is a regional mechanism, and it is only for these Western Balkan 6 countries. So you're not able, as on behalf of Italian organization, you're not eligible to apply for the grants within RICO. Okay,
thank you for this presentation, Elisabetta. Okay, in spite of the fact that unfortunately it's not possible to participate if you're outside that region, it's a great initiative, it's a great idea to contribute to peace in the region, involving young people, such a way that young people can play an active role and they can be protagonists for the future and the reconciliation in the region. It's a great effort. And so if you have further questions about it, or if you want to check it out, there is the website, and you can contact Elisabetta for specific questions also related to previous project done in the region. It's a very interesting initiative, as we said, and we thought that it was relevant to the topic of this webinar series. Okay, so now we can go on, and I would say also I would like to welcome Miriona. Can you hear us? Can you talk? Are you there? Miriona?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, welcome on
Can
board.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah.
Thank you. I also saw for just a second Safai from Morocco, but I think that she might have experienced internet connection, just like was in the previous time. In case she's back, we will be glad to have her in our group. Now we can go on addressing our main task of today's meeting, which is the toolkit. We shared the toolkit already with you. Who had time to just open the file? It's a very long file, more than 100 pages. Paul, you watch it, you read it. Vincent?
No, that's why I laughed, because it's a very big document. So you asked if I opened it. I can say yes to that one. Any other question you ask, I can't answer.
Okay, so you were scared by the length, but the size of the document. Vincent, have you had the chance to read some part of it?
I haven't read it, but I've just gone through the different sections to get a bit of an idea of the sections. And you know, like, I found it very helpful. You know, my perspective is, I suppose, thinking of the future, maybe having to put in an application. I think it would be a very good resource for making an application, but also if we were implementing a project, there's a lot of information there. And, you know, I look forward to it being renewed, because, like, as you mentioned, it's quite dated, so it would be good to have a more up-to-date document. But, you know, I think I've sort of grasped the structure, you know, like, of the document, and I think it's, you know, it's written in a very good way. It's a very lengthy document, but, you know, there's some sections which it's more examples of projects in different countries towards the end of the document, you know, which are helpful, but maybe yeah, it's more sort of additional information, isn't it, with those examples? Yeah.
Thank you, Vincent. This was a very useful comment. Actually, you jumped the gun, because the things that we are going to do now is to start from a general approach, and we would like to share some comment about toolkits and about the purpose of a toolkit in general. Not thinking about our VICA toolkit, but in general. You know, there are many toolkits. For example, if just think about a training on gender issues, usually an international group of participants, it can be asked at the end of the training course to publish a toolkit, so a short handbook that recaps the content of the training. There are a number of toolkits produced in the IVS movement. So we can start with a very, very open and unstructured brainstorming. So the question is, what are the purposes? What are the benefits of a toolkit, according to you? We listed 8 purposes, but before showing them to you, we would like first to start a brainstorming, and then we can compare our answers with your answers. So now the microphones are open for those who would like to share. Vincent, you already said something.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll just sort of elaborate a bit. For me, you know, like, the purpose of a toolkit is to, you know, like, having information for me if I'm going to develop a project, you know, even going back to the stage of writing, you know, like an application, but then planning the project, you know, having information there to help with develop the project and to be able to share things that, you know, like useful information for the volunteers. I would also like to say that, you know, I was very impressed. I think it was session 3, was it, when we got the code of conduct from Zanab and Yazan. I thought that was very helpful, and you know, like things like that I would like to see added to the toolkit, you know, because I thought that was a very good code of conduct. Yeah,
you jumped the gun again, Vincent. This was actually what we have in mind.
yeah.
If I may just recap what you said, the toolkit in this case can be a resource. Resource if I want to write a project, an application, if I want to plan something. And yes, this can be a purpose. Are there other purposes according to you? I'm talking with the other participants. What can be a aim of a toolkit? Why do we do toolkits? It's just because we want to conclude a project with a toolkit, just asking people to work on it? Why would you consult a toolkit?
Yeah. I think the point that I was thinking of, especially when Vincent first spoke, and to use the word sections, and as far as I don't mind the word toolkit, though for myself I would use the word toolbox, because with my son we've been doing some practical work around the house and we needed a toolbox, and you have different tools in there. And the particular thing you want to do, like Vincent said, for an application, okay, you go to one part, you go to a particular tool to help you with that. Or for another job, you may need more than one tool for it. It's there. So it's something that's very flexible. And it's not, though sometimes we call it a handbook, it's not something that we go straight to. It's more like some, you know, we call it do-it-yourself manuals, which may have all different actions you can do if things go wrong around the house, so you don't have to employ a workman. What can you do yourself? And you look it up and you see in a particular part, that's the answer. So I think a really important point about this is that it is in sections. I like Vincent's use of that word, sections, because you have a section for a particular purpose. You don't have to read all the 100 and whatever pages to find what you want. You go straight there and say, yeah, this is what I need. We're going to have a work camp that's going to do that. Oh, can I find something that's going to help me? Can I find some exercises for the participants? So that is what I want. As I say, a toolbox with different tools inside.
Thank you, Paul. This is also very, very interesting. So a toolkit or a toolbox, as you call it, could be a resource that allows me to look something specific. So you highlighted the practical dimension. I don't have to read it all. Of course, we can do it. But if I, for example, I'm in urgent need to have an energizer for a project in a conflict area, and I want the energizers to be related to the next session, well, I can find an energizer about conflict in this toolbox, as you call it. That is, the practical dimension is very important. Are there other ideas or comments about the benefit of a toolkit? Thinking also not only about the toolkit itself, but also the process and participatory process of creating the toolkit. What can be all the consequences and the benefits of doing this?
Well, just differently, the other point, of course, is it presents CCIVS or whoever is delivering this. It says something about our organization. It says something about our values and who we are and how we approach problems.
Yeah, in this case, it can be a promotional instrument.
Yeah, it's part of our identity, in fact.
Exactly, yes. So this can be another benefit of the toolkit. You can use it to present the movement or the network or the organization to other people. If there are no other comments, we will share our 8 points and then we can see together. So I'm referring just to the ladies here. Ladies, do you want to add something? Do you have some insight, inputs that you would like to share? Otherwise, you can share our points. Or maybe you're curious to see. Okay, time is over. It seems that you're curious to see what we propose to you. So now I will share the screen and we can see it together. Here it is. So why do we need a toolkit? 8 good reasons to work together and deliver a high quality output. This is the title. So let's start capacity building. So a toolkit or a toolbox or a handbook, they are instruments to share tools. There's something that also we stress, methods and ideas within the organization and the network. So it can be useful to strengthen also the knowledge and the skills, so the capacity inside network. In this case, inside within CCIVS or within IVS networks and organizations. Then, high quality standards. So the ideas in a toolkit, they are just not improvised. They are discussed. They are built on previous ideas. In our case, it's clear. We will not change completely the toolkit, but we will change the things and only the things that need to be updated. So usually in a toolkit, the ideas are discussed, they are tested, they are evaluated. And by doing this, they can increase the quality of projects and activities. So you know that in these toolkits or in a handbook, you can find ideas which are tested, okay? So the quality of these ideas, of these tools, should be quite high. Then, theoretical framework. This is also important. So usually toolkits include sections with research, data, literature references, and links to other toolkits. Also, the reference to literature and to research is important. For example, if you work on a toolkit on non-formal education, you might find references to Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow, or these psychologists. And so you are invited to make further research. And also in this, if you just read the pages of the toolkit, you can find actually references to conflict theories. Then another one, community. This is something that I was just suggesting before showing. You can contact and start a debate with the toolkit creators. You can share your ideas and best practice. You can update the toolkit like we are doing through a participatory process involving the participants. So it can strengthen the community, it can strengthen the relationships within networks and the movement. This is another one. So there are the first 4. Then let's see also the next page. Participatory process. This is linked with what I have just said. You can involve a group of participants in the creation or updated process of the toolkit. Then commitment. This is something also quite interesting. It proves your interest and efforts and engagement in a specific topic. So by showing the toolkit at the end of an updated process, or if you're just doing it for the first time, you can just show to the world, look, I wrote a 100-page toolkit about it. So this shows my commitment on the issue. I don't want to address the topic in a superficial way. I just want to do it well. And these toolkits, handbooks, or toolbox, this is the proof of my commitment. Another point is funding opportunities. This is something that we said, actually. The toolkit can be used as a promotional instrument, as a reference in a project application, can be presented to potential funders. This is something very, very, I think, important. And it's something that I always do when I write my project. I try to make a research and I add in the application form and the project description, I try to add references, a link to toolkits, handbooks, or publication to show to the funders that we produce something on this topic, on this matter. So it is something that is very important for us. And finally, this is actually what we do: update and consolidate. We need to update regularly the already existing material in our movement by doing different processes, harmonizing, simplifying, and consolidating our documents. So we will see actually in the next session, it is very important to see what we have in order to harmonize, to make a research and say, okay, this is what we have. We can take these things, which is very good. We can simplify, we can consolidate our knowledge, and we can create something updated. So this is a process that should be done regularly within the movement, at least every 5-10 years. Otherwise, we keep on using the same old tools, which can be distant from reality. Technology changes in a jiffy nowadays. So it is very important that this process is done regularly. So these were the 8 main benefits of making and updating toolkits according to us. Now I can stop the sharing. And now we can just have the last round of comments from you. Did you find some new ideas? And did you find something that you didn't expect in these 8 points? Or do they think that makes sense? Or do you want to add something more that just popped in your mind while we were talking? So microphones are open. So it seems you are convinced about these benefits, and we are very glad about it. So there are no objections. And we really hope that this will strengthen also your motivation and your interest to work in the updated process of our dear toolkit. And as I said, the very first step before starting a toolkit or updating our toolkit is to have a look at what we already have. So me and Elisabetta, we made a research. There are plenty of toolkits, publications, handbooks on the topic of conflict and peace, because IVS is a peace movement. Specifically, on the topic of volunteering in conflict areas, there are not so many. So we would like to show briefly what we found. Actually, we put all these resources in a share folder that we will share with you. We don't ask you to read all this because it will take too much time, but they are available for you. You can have a look. Some of them, they are also quite old and they need themselves some restyling. Regarding the one that I found, I will not share my screen. I will just comment them very quickly. I found Peace Learning Toolkit of SCI Switzerland, done in 2009, which is very, very nice. It's quite short. It's important because if you know the history of SCI, and if you attended the first VICA meeting, we mentioned that the movement was born 101 years ago, thanks to the effort of Pierre Ceresol, who was a Swiss activist, who promoted and brought together the team who created the very first work camp near Verdun in 1920. So SCI Switzerland is the Swiss branch of Service Civil International, and they are kind of depository of the old values of SCI. There is even an archive in Switzerland, which is coordinated by SCI Switzerland. So they are basically the memory of SCI and the first work camp. And for this reason, they feel a strong motivation to work on this topic. And this is one of the proof. This was one toolkit but it is quite short, but it's very interesting. So if you want to have a look. Then there is another one which I suggest you to read, which is very practical. This is actually what the purpose that Paul mentioned. It is the No More War Toolkit. Also, this is quite old, 2012. No More War was a thematic working group created within CCIVS International. And the main topic was anti-militarism and peace. And you can find many practical tools that suggest you how to create a training or how to conduct a non-formal education activities on the topic. And finally, I found something very interesting, which was Alliance study session on volunteering in conflict areas. So exactly the same topic we are doing. So it was something very similar to VICA meeting, of course, in a residential format, because back then in 2006, there was no pandemic. And they did it with the support of European Youth Foundation. So this is another similarity. And there were some very interesting trainers, and basically they did a study session. And the structure of the study session is very similar also to our VICA structure. Of course, it was condensed in 5 days, I think, or 6 days meeting with young people. You can have a look because basically it's not a toolkit, it's more a report. But I use this report also to get inspiration on how to create the sessions of VICA. So you see, all these documents are very important because they really leads you to create new ideas. So these were the things that I found. Maybe I can leave the floor to Elisabetta very briefly. You can also comment on the things that you found.
Okay, thank you, Mauro. Yes, I found another 2 or 3 toolkits. And just briefly to share with you, you will have them all in this shared folder. So one is done by Civil International Germany, and it's named, the title is Remembers for Peace, and it has approaches knowledge and non-formal methods around remembers work for young workers and peace activists. You can take a glance. It's not so long as our VICA toolkit, and it has some really interesting points about remembrance and its importance. So another one is handbook for learners called Build Peace. And it's done like the authors are from 6 or 7 different countries. It's done within the CCIVS project, and also my organization, Young Researchers of Serbia, was involved in creating this toolkit. It's actually about building peace through integrated formal and non-formal learning approaches, so something that we were doing here. And another interesting tool can be volunteer. It's another toolkit for youth and volunteers done by United Nations. It's from 2000 and from 2018, and it's called Volunteer for Social Cohesion. So it's not directly related to the conflicts, but it has some interesting points that can be used on this topic as well. So that's all from my side.
Thank you, Elisabetta. So as you can see, there is something. It is not so updated. There was also something interesting that I would have liked to share, but I'm not authorized because I work briefly for as a trainer for the pool of trainer of United Nations volunteers. And we used specific toolkits only for the trainers of this specific training. It was a training for a pre-departure training for young volunteers going abroad to work in the UN agency. It is very, very interesting. If you just one day you become trainer or UNV, you will find and you will be allowed to use this material, this toolkit, which is very interesting. And there are many references to the conflict theory we mentioned during VICA training. So each network, each program has its specific resources. And also we in IVS, we have also our specific resources. And among them, there is also our toolkit. So now, finally, it is the time that we can approach our dear toolkit, Vika toolkit. But first, since this 1 hour, since the beginning of this meeting, we would propose 5 minutes break, if you don't mind. And then we can meet our dear toolkit. So let's say we can start again at 3:10 minutes, okay? 7 minutes break, is it okay? So you can stretch your legs.
Now
Okay.
we are.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the cover. Just take notes, take comments, just reflect on it. If you have ideas about a new style, new graphic identity for the cover, you can start making suggestions. We like it, but of course we have to show that we are updating. So one good idea could be to start from the cover.
Okay, I don't know if people all understand. Certainly in our culture in the UK, the red poppy stands for those who have been killed in a conflict or war. But we also have a white poppy, and the white poppy stands for those who refuse to take up arms and fight. So that's another idea, is the white poppy.
Thank you, Paul, for this very precious comment. So white poppy. And what about the giraffe? Do you know something more about the giraffe? Actually, it is also a symbolic animal. Who knows?
Not that I know.
Who knows the meaning of the giraffe? It is not by chance that we have the giraffe popping out from the.
No, this is another culture, I think.
Well, doesn't Andrew Marshall talk about the giraffe and nonviolent communication?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it is related to this. So there are two symbols here, the poppy and the giraffe. So this can be also a suggestion for us to look for other symbols. So there is one mentioned by Paul, which is white poppy, but if you want to add other ideas, icon symbols, of course, maybe you need more time to think about it. Maybe it can be just an enlightenment or other inspiration, and you have to make research. But just keep in mind that we can change the cover, so we can create something, a brand new cover. Okay. Also the colors, the graphic style, all this can be changed. Of course, it will be the task of the graphic designer, but it would be good if we can provide some suggestions for the graphic designer. So I will just go very quickly to the summary, and I will maximize this just to show you that the current toolkit consists of different chapters. So the first chapter is an introduction. This introduction probably is the chapter that needs less restyling, because some information are, of course, they refer to more than 10 years ago, but some details didn't change. And of course, the first chapter also is it's an introduction to the next contents of the toolkit. So this chapter should be changed at the very end when we have a better overview about the contents of the following chapters. So we just skip this for the moment. What is important is the contents of chapter 2, which is about conflicts. This contains information and details about the theory of conflict, for example, and we saw already some of these contents in Zainab's and Yazin presentation. And here you can see there are different sub-chapters. So what is conflict? So a definition of conflict, and we had our definition of conflicts, if you remember well, in our Vika meetings. Understanding conflict, how can we constructively deal with conflicts? And then there is another part about communication and nonviolent communication. So this is some part related to theory of conflicts and models. and we can upgrade it, we can integrate it with more information. Then chapter 3 is about conflict at the IVS. And here there are some examples of projects related with conflict in the IVS movement. And also this can be updated because some of these examples are quite old. And then chapter 4, this is interesting. This is about tools and exercises. So tools can be games, can be workshops, can be energizers, can be ideas for non-formal education activities, for starting a project, something that can be done in the middle of the project, something can be done at the end. As evaluation, debriefing, reflection, something that is related with team building, get to know each other, game, everything. So this is the part about non-formal education, the practical part. We just share some comments about the fact that the tool can be consulted instantly. If you need, for example, an energizer about conflict, you can go to page 50, for example, you can find it. So this is something where we can add our ideas. We can add your ideas if you experienced, if you tested specific tools, we can make a research, we can integrate it. So you can see tools and exercises about non-violent communications, different games, and so on. And this is quite long. And then we have another part. This needs to be restructured totally. It is very interesting, but it is not updated anymore because it's about IVS projects in conflict area or in post-conflict areas. All these examples refers to old projects. They are all very interesting, but for example, if we go to page 90, I just skipped to page 90 just to show you a practical example. No, this is Liberia, Northern Ireland. Okay, here. It mentions the Northern Ireland branch of IVS, of ICI, sorry, which was called International Voluntary Service Northern Ireland. As far as I know, this branch doesn't exist anymore, or it was discontinued and maybe now it's existing again. But this is something. Yes, please, Vincent. Maybe you know more better.
As far as I know, the Dublin branch sort of is active in Northern Ireland, but it's quite, like I don't think they're too active at the moment. Yeah. And then of course, you have the strange situation in Northern Ireland. You have certain things that might come from the Republic of Ireland and other things from the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. This is for sure. I can say that when I started my career as placement officer for work camps, actually I started this in working for SCI Germany. I knew for sure that there was a branch, an active branch in Northern Ireland, because I used to send German volunteers to Northern Ireland, and my colleague, the office was in Northern Ireland. But as far as I know, this office doesn't exist anymore, and it is so it is Dublin. It is the office in Dublin now that it coordinates. So this thing, this description refers, of course, to our work that really happened, but we can maybe replace it with something more up to date. And this is valid for all the 10 examples. So this is something very interesting for those who have connection with members of Alliance or SCI or other members of the branches of networks belonging to IVS. It's to make a research, maybe even work on where you participated in as a volunteer, and this list should be updated. So, let's say new WordCamp that were organized between, let's say 2015 and 2021 in the last 5-6 years. Because of course also the conflicts developed and they changed, and also the reaction to conflicts changed. So it is important to make this research, and for sure there are more than 10 available descriptions, but this is something that we can do, and we can identify 10 brand new descriptions of WordCamp in post-conflict areas. And anyway, you can have a look at these examples just to have an idea of the activity. So I will stop sharing now. This is more or less the structure. And now we can share another slide with specific tasks that we can do together. So here it is. Sorry, I will change this because this was something that I received from. Okay, I will explain you why. Okay, so Vika Toolkit aim and tasks. The general aim is to update the current toolkit. It was published in 2008. The deadline should be at the end of October of this year. This is something that we need to define with the European Youth Foundation, because to me, maybe it's not realistic because there is the summer break in between. I don't think that we will work so hard in July and August. And also July and August, maybe it's the time where you can go also, where you can go abroad to WordCamp, and maybe you can attend a WordCamp in post-conflict areas. And this could be the practical experience that you would like to share in the toolkit. So it is better to focus on sometimes for research and experience during the summertime. And then in September, we can start collecting the inputs. And then in October, the graphic designer can finalize it. This is a good plan, but maybe it's not realistic because we would need at least 1 month more in such a way as that everybody can work also in September and October. And then the graphic designer can finalize it in November. By doing this, we could have more time to collect inputs, most of all also from the people who are not here. Maybe they would like to ask questions, and it is good to involve them in the process. Not only the person who are present here, the brave participants, but also those who couldn't attend because of different assignments and family, job reasons. We know that there are participants who were vaccinated today, for example. With the pandemic, it's very hard to plan our life. So for this reason, we would like to ask for an extension for this task, for this aim, and hopefully we will get it. So for now, just take it with a grain of salt. 30 October 2021 is the deadline to have the toolkit finalized. Finalized means already finalized by the graphic designer, but we will confirm this. The task, so this is the general aim to update. I think it is clear. The task is to revise the contents, to select contents that we can keep, because we don't have to change all the 100 pages. It would be, an heroic task. We are not superheroes, we are human. Select contents that we can modify, update, and cancel. There is actually something we mentioned when we show the chapters to you. Add new contents according to the inputs from Vika webinars. So we mentioned that, for example, Vincent mentioned that it would be nice to add the code of contents part, code of conduct, the do's and don'ts. There is something that was interesting in our Vika meetings. And then total graphic restyling. This is something, it will be very challenging for our graphic designer, but this can be can be suggested also by the participants, of course. Yeah. So these are the general, the specific tasks. The possible changes, we made a list here. We already talked about it, actually. About the cover graphic outline, we remind, they have to be changed totally. We can add also drawings from Yorgos. Do you remember meeting number 2? We included in our contents the drawings by Yorgos. Of course, we need to talk again with him to also ask the copyright of the things that he already done. And maybe he told us that he would be very glad to contribute with the new drawings. So we can add this. Of course, this is to be confirmed. For sure, the graphic outline needs to be changed. Also because we want to show to the funders and also to CCIVS, to IVS, that we changed it. So if we keep the same cover, maybe it is not the best way to say that we changed the contents. So we need to change the contents and the format. About the chapter 1, it is the introduction, will be changed according to what we will modify it, okay? This goes without saying. So usually this is something that is changed at the end. And of course, we can keep the information about IVS and CCIVS and maybe adding something new about the movement and about CCIVS. The chapter 2 is from page 14 to page 31. It is about conflict. And as said, this part contains details on conflict theories. The ideas that we can add are the ideas that we share also during the VICA webinars. We can add inputs on conflict and gender, conflict and environment, conflict and migration, and conflict and ethno-religious identity. We briefly mentioned this, but in the current toolkit, there is no this specification. So there is something that we can add. So the dimension of environment and conflict, the dimension of migration and conflict, and so on. Unfortunately, there was not so much time to explore this into details. We've just mentioned briefly, but we can make research. The chapter number 3 is conflict and IVS. These are about 10 pages, and it is the chapter 3, yes. Conflict and IVS. Here we can add examples of conflicts in war camps or intercultural projects. So this is not about war camp in conflict areas. This is about conflict in war camp. So can be a normal war camp, also war camp in Italy about cultural heritage, and there is a conflict in this war camp. So the example of conflicts that might happen in non-formal education activities. We have some examples. We can replace them with something more relevant. So we can just have a look and see what we can change. And of course, there are also conflict theories in the current toolkit. There are models with drawings. I think also this drawings part should be restyled because also the style is not trendy anymore, I would say. And we can provide new models. We can provide new theories and new fresh inputs. So this part is about theory. There is a sub part about nonviolent communication. It can be kept, but maybe it needs to be rewritten. If we go further, chapter number 4, we mentioned it. It's about tools and exercises. This is a practical part. It's very long, more than 30 pages. This part can be totally updated and changed. We can contribute proposing outlines of non-formal education tools. We can create a template in such a way as that each tool has the same presentation. And this would be useful for those who consult the toolkit just to find something specific. If we keep the same format for each tool, it would help the reader. We can add simple thematic energizers. We can propose something more complex, for example, the structure of 3 days pre-departure training for volunteers going in work in conflict areas. So it's up to us. Of course, we can keep also some tools which already exist, but I would suggest that we bring fresh tools here. And then finally, there is the chapter 5, and this is the things that definitely need to be updated, as we said before. We can find definitely 10 new related project descriptions to replace the old ones. And the part of preparation and procedure can be changed. So there is a part that explains how volunteers going in conflict areas should be prepared. Maybe this is also outdated and we should propose new procedures. We can make a research asking the network if they have new tools, new procedures about it. Here we can add, actually, I mentioned before that we can add the code of conduct, do's and don'ts in the conflict theory part, but if we decide, we can add it also here, because in this chapter 5, there are also originally in this current structure, there are details about the preparation of volunteers, and this code of conduct, roles and responsibilities, it falls into the category. We can even maybe create a chapter number 6 only focus on this. And then there is the part on reference, which is quite long here in this current toolkit. And this will be done at the end. It's all the references to the literature and links that we will mention in the first, in the other chapters. Okay, so I will stop here. I would like to ask some feedback, because maybe you are a little bit scared about this task. Of course, if it is just us, we are not a very big group and it can be really demanding. So consider that we will make efforts in order to involve also the participants who are not here. In such a way, if we have, let's say, a group of 15 people, because at the beginning we were 15, this means that everybody can contribute just with 1 page or a couple of pages or a section or something very small. Of course, we need coordination. As said, we don't have to change everything. Maybe we can change 30% of it. We will see. Definitely, it is clear the part that needs to be changed, which is the chapter 5. And then more idea about theory of conflicts, and to integrate the part about code of conduct, roles and responsibilities, because it was very interesting, and a new example of conflicts in WordCamps. So these are, let's say, the essentials. But now, before going further, I would like to ask also your comments, also to your impressions, also thinking about your time and the engagement that you can dedicate to this task. Just to be totally honest, you can say also, I don't think that I'm up to the task. I don't think that I will have time in the next month. Or because for us, it's important to know about your expectations, so we can also better prepare the team for the task. So just the floor is to you, and feel free to comment and to share your reaction.
Mario, I've got a radical idea.
Oh,
do you want to hear it?
Yes, sure.
You know, I like over the last year, I've been very impressed with Padlet. Now, I sort of get carried away and I do things with Padlet, and I find other people don't use it. You're familiar with Padlet, I presume, are you?
A little bit. I'm not as young as you might think.
You know, like, well, what I sort of thought, Mario, that you could actually put the content of the toolkit on Padlet. Now, you'd have to keep a sort of a paper version of the toolkit as well, because not everybody is so familiar. You know, the danger with Padlet, you can just get lost in it. But you know what you could have in Padlet, you know, you could have a sort of an opening page, and on it you've got the different sections, the different chapters, and people just have to click on a link. It goes to another page, and then that could be further divided. So just say, I think it was chapter 4 with the exercises. You know, you could click on that, and then you subdivide it into different types of exercises. And with there, you know, like with Padlet, you could even include links to videos, you know, like clips. There's so much you could do to it. But it would also be quite a good way of sort of people interacting who wanted to develop it, yeah? You know, you could have an editor who's got the overall responsibility, but just say, you know, like you're the editor and you want people to sort of add to exercises. You could just say, well, you can add your exercise on this page. And the idea with Padlet then, it could sort of evolve over time. Now, of course, like, you know, you're probably looking at something that's finished at a particular time. So, you know, you do need to have a finished document. But then if it was on Padlet, it could just evolve over time as well. You know, like, that's my idea. But again, you know, like some people can just get lost in it because there's too much information on a sort of a web-based platform, yeah?
Vincent, this is the third time today that you jumped the gun. Why am I saying this? Because this was, I'll do a preview of the last session. We mentioned actually when we were just listing the sessions of today's program that we have some money available for follow-up.
Mm.
We proposed DYF to create a MOOC, which is different from the Padlet. A MOOC, basically, the idea was to bring to record the contents of the VICA meetings and to bring them in a specific section and to make an extensive video course. And IVF rejected this idea. I don't know exactly why. But your idea, I think, is more relevant and more feasible because basically it's another version. We can work on the toolkit, updating it, but it's something that I mentioned is it's only digital. We are not going to publish it. So we need, on one hand, we need to modify the toolkit. On the other hand, we can use the budget to develop your ideas. First, we need to propose the idea to our EYF. So to have a Padlet version of the toolkit to make it more alive. So to include also, as you said, videos in such a way that people can refer either to the toolkit in a PDF. Maybe we can even print it. And then there is also the online version in Padlet, which will be different. And for this, we can pay, yes, a coordinator, we can pay other roles. And that's the idea. This is something that actually we want to collect inputs at the end of today's session, but your idea is actually a good inputs for this. Paul.
Okay, I take a deep breath because I have a very big criticism of this toolkit, but I think Vincent's idea he's just put in many ways answers that criticism or goes towards a way of meeting it. Okay, what's my criticism? My criticism is that this toolkit document is much too academic. It is prepared with too much talk and theory and so on. And let me just say, I'm sorry, but I found your 8 points about it are fine when looked at from the point of view of the people who are creating this. I want to look at it from the point of view of the people who have to use it. And remember, they may be people we asked to take a coordinating role in a work camp. They may only have done one work camp themselves. They will, in all probability, not have had a university, a tertiary education. What are we doing for them? How is it going to be an easy thing for them to pick up and find something that's going to be really helpful? And that's why I say a toolbox, so that someone can reach in and immediately put their hand on the tool that they need. And it seems to me that's what we need to address in the organization of the material we're presenting and in our approach, always in our head. Who is this for? When do they want it? How can they use it? How easy is it for them? Many of them will not have English language skills. Okay, we've got to try to express it in straightforward, correct English. Okay, that's my criticism. Even something like the theories, yes, they're fine. And Zainab and Yassin's contributions were superb and lovely, but that may be even an annex for theories at the end, to put them all at the beginning, so it's only, you have to get to chapter 4 before you start to get something a little bit practical. It's not right. It's not the right way. If you are genuine in wanting this to be a toolbox that will be useful and used in the field, as we say, it's something in the field, something handy that you can reach out for, and there it is. And not for people like us. I mean, I've gone back to university now at the moment. Okay, that's all very interesting, but it's not what younger people want and can use. And I think Vincent's idea of the tablet in some way answers that kind of thing, because I think Vincent's also, if I'm right, thinking, yeah, how can this be used? The tablet will take you through to where you want to go without having to wade through a lot of pages.
It's a very good point. I would like to ask maybe Claudia Miriona, you are much younger than us. What do you think about Paul's input? To me, it's very interesting.
In fact, yeah, the idea of bringing all the information in a Padlet, it's so fresh and make it more touchable for young people, and I think that it's great. But also, I think that it's better if we have it in PDF and in the print version, because sometimes it's also so funny that we can find the information in the way that in a Padlet or something like this, like that, but sometimes we need it all concluded in one PDF and see it all the time, or make it with, or take it with us in our activities or something like this, like that. So for me, the two ideas are so great. So I don't know, but
yeah,
I go in traditional way sometimes. So sorry.
I think that yes, we have actually three possible directions, as you said: printed version, PDF version, and then the Padlet version, which is the more dynamic. And Claudia, how do you see it?
Yes, I agree. I think that young people still use also books and old methods. So they are both good ideas. I think that it depends on each person.
Okay. So
Can I say,
yes,
I
please.
think you need to have the PDF, you know, like as well as the Padlet, because, you know, I agree that the PDF, once it's finished, it's easier then to sort of, you know, to look at it, have everything. But I think to develop the toolkit, the Padlet would be a good way of developing it, because, you know, I think it can be quite difficult to look at rewriting a toolkit that's already there. You know, my sort of thinking was more have the Padlet to develop it. Then at the end of the process, you've got the Padlet, which can still be developed, but then you make the Padlet into a PDF document as well. That's a finished product, yeah? So I think we need to have the two, yeah?
Yes, I agree. I'm sorry if anyone thought that I was speaking against the published version, the PDF version. All I'm saying is the material that's there, and I'm not speaking against any of the material, but the way it's organized is not a good way.
Yeah.
It needs reorganizing in a different way. That's what I'm asking for. That it appears in an academic form. All that kind of material can still be there in the PDF, in the paper, even if you want such a version, to have it on your shelf in your office. Nothing wrong in that at all. But where is the material so that those who need it can just put their hand on what they need at an early stage?
Yeah, I totally agree with this point, Paul. And I think these all new and fresh ideas were, let's say, pushed also by the pandemic, because now people, after this 2 years break, lots of people were much more familiar with these digital tools, and they refer to them whenever they do research or whenever they need something. So the idea that we just proposing now, I think that, as they say in English, we we caught two birds with one stone. Do you say like this?
Kill
Because-
two birds with one stone. Okay.
Yeah, because our need was to collect ideas on how to update the output, but at the same time we have also this remaining grant, and this can be used actually to coordinate. It will require time, it will require resources, maybe even external resources, and for sure we will need an extension of the deadline for doing this. And so we need to contact EYF and to propose an idea, a plan. I will talk with CCIVS, namely with Ling, who was waiting actually for this idea. And I think she will be glad. It is something that I feel positive and I feel optimistic about the fact that EYF can accept this. Just to conclude, my question is for you is how much time will you have and how much motivation, energy, or just resources would you have to focus on this follow-up? If you are available in the first place in the next month, and if you would like to be included in this process, and yeah, just your feedback about this, so we can better understand the resources that we have.
I find these sessions, like 2 hours every week have been quite good. Like maybe going forward, that might be a bit too much of a commitment, but something like that, once or twice a month, having a time where we can all meet together, well, the people who are available would be good, yeah.
Okay, thanks. The commitment could be also online or writing texts or providing, making research to find new examples for the war camps and conflict areas and so on. So it could be something that you can do digitally in your spare time. So Vincent, thank you for this availability. I noted down. What about the other? Maybe Claudia, Miliona, Paul?
Yes, for me, I think that if we take more time, it could be better because I should have my graduation in October. So I'm having a very full month in next month. So maybe if we have also October to write and to work on it, for me it would be better. So maybe I can have some days last month. Okay.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yes, I have to say something very similar to you, because except my graduation, if I make it, will not be until October of next year, I think. But we only get 2 weeks in the summer. It's incredible. I thought we would have the old-fashioned kind of university term. So, and already the assignments I'm doing, I keep delaying them and getting getting new dates for them, which embarrasses me, but I have to do it with everything else in my life. But I will just try to help where I can.
Okay. And Miriona, what would you say?
I really want to be engaged in all the
Sorry, Miriona, we didn't hear what you said.
Finished my on the.
Miriona, can you maybe write in the chat?
Yeah, can you hear me now? It's better?
Yes, and now it's better. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So I really want to work on the toolkit, but I think that during the September I have to finish my diploma, and I don't know how many time I have to be engaged. But I really want, and I will give all my free time that I will have and work on it.
Okay. Noted. Okay, so I think that the next step now, I will write a mail to CCIVS and I will share this development because this is something, a game changer. I think they will be happy because this solves also the problem of how to use the remaining part of the grant. Definitely we need coordination. We need a coordinator, but this role can be paid. And this person could keep you involved in different ways. Probably it cannot be me, the coordinator, because I have so many things to do. Maybe I can contribute with PDF version. So the traditional boring part. And this Padlet will be something I think that should include young people or young people at heart, like Vincent. For example, me, I'm not familiar about Padlets. I spend my time learning Zoom in the last month, and it is quite okay for me. And other things, I didn't have time to explore Padlets and other applications. So definitely, we need people who are also familiar with this tool. And then we will see, and we will keep you in touch. We will keep you informed about the development and the way you can contribute. For me, a key point is the extension of deadline, which is related also to the acceptance of the idea. If EYF accept the idea of this, let's say three formats of the output, this PDF printed version and Padlet, they will definitely accept also our proposition to extend the deadline, because it is not possible to finish everything in October. So hopefully there will be, hopefully on the first place, they will accept this proposal, and they will accept the new distribution of funds, and they will accept also the extensions. If there is the extension of the deadline, we can work in a much more relaxed way in our free time during the evening on a rainy day or a rainy night, and everybody can be happy. And of course, it's not just like us, but all the people who were involved in the Vika meetings adventure, included also Zainab and Yazin, and also Yorgos. Plus all the other activists of CCIVS who would like to contribute. This is my plan. If you agree, I think we can communicate with CCIVS. I think it's a very good idea. Before this meeting, I didn't have idea, and actually I wasn't so much optimistic, but I'm very glad that we come up with this development. And we also finished on time. Actually, there was the next session would have been the plan of action, but I think it doesn't make sense to make the plan of action, because the plan of action referred to the traditional PDF version of the toolkit. And since we come up with new ideas, it probably the new plan of action will be done by hopefully the coordinator of the Padlet, or this new 3 version. So that's the end officially. So I would just we have 5 minutes. If somebody would like just to share comments, general comments about the whole Vika meetings, starting from meetings number 1, how do you evaluate all the cycle, so to say? I consider also the possible follow-up. If you just want to share keywords or how you feel after this, you were the bravest who resisted so Vika 5 at 4 Paris time. So you deserve credit, acknowledgement for this. If you just want to share the way you feel, this is the time, because in 3 minutes we are concluding. For me, it was a wonderful experience. I learned so much from you. I would have liked to learn more and to ask you more questions. Most of all from the participant from the Balkans, from Paul, from Vincent from Northern Ireland. There is the program that you mentioned, Vincent, for sure I will contact you again, because I'm very curious to know more about Northern Ireland. and the possibility to get grant and to write application, which is also my job. And as said, for me, it was a very, very positive experience, and I'm very, very proud to be part of this. But now I would like to also hear your reaction. So if you have any. Yeah.
Yes, no, I was very impressed with the sessions. You know, I thought it was such a good balance with yourself, Mario, and Elzveta, and then, you know, like having Zanab, and, you know, like there was, and Yazin, there was so much content that they brought, but also how you brought it as well. And, you know, like there was such also a wealth of information from all the different participants. So I was very happy with how the sessions went. You know, you sometimes go to courses and it's like, how would you say, you know, people are trying to sort of present a particular approach and, yeah, get around that, you know, to comprehend that, yeah. But it was very good. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent, for these very kind words. We will forward them also to Zainab and Yazin and CCIVS. And we have also a written comment from Miriona. It said it was very nice to be part of the training.
Yes,
Thanks,
I've enjoyed it too. As and when I've been able to engage and take part, and maybe it's just these last sessions and that last exercise that I did most with, but there were times when I wasn't able to be so involved. So I quite understand, as I think you did in your comments, that our numbers are at times have been quite low, quite small. But that's also a little bit disappointing because, as you say, on these events, you learn so much from the other participants who come from different countries, have different backgrounds, and that's always a big part of the joy of participation is in meeting and learning from them, as well as from the very worthy teachers that we have had. So I'm really hoping that we will have a bigger group helping on the toolkit as far as possible. And yeah, it just to recognize that it can't have been easy, both for you who have been preparing it with Elzveta and also with Julia as well, who's put in a lot on this. So thank you very much. We hope it comes to fruition, as we say, to provide something really
Thank you, Paul, for your active participation. It was appreciated by everybody, I can say. I can talk on behalf of the whole group.
Right.
Claudia.
Yes, I would like to thank you because this was a very interesting course. The trainers were brilliant and also the participants. So I could learn a lot and got a lot of inputs and it was very, very great course and opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. This is very good incentive for all of us. I will forward all these nice words to the team and to CCIVS. And magically, it's 4 o'clock Paris time. This is the first time that we are punctual. And this means that also we learn something regarding the time management skills, which is a kind of weakness of mine. And so there is nothing left for me to just to say that, again, I will bring all this positive feedback from you and all this experience. And the project is not finished, so we will stay in touch. And I wish you a nice evening. And that's all for now. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.